The fluorescent lights of the hospital flickered faintly, casting long shadows over the sterile floors. The hum of machines and distant chatter should have felt routine, but tonight, the atmosphere was heavy, suffocating. Mara, only 24, bright-eyed, and full of dreams, wheeled herself down the corridor, her crutches clicking softly against the linoleum. She was a rookie nurse, recently disabled in a car accident that had left her partially paralyzed, but she refused to let that define her. Every step she took in that hospital was a battle fought not just against her body, but against the judgment of those who couldn't see beyond it. The doctors in this wing had already made their opinions clear. They whispered when she passed, questioning whether a nurse who needed help herself could ever truly help others. Tasks were assigned to her with double standards, others could refuse, she could not. Patients' charts piled up, the weight of expectation pressing down harder than any crutch could. That night, Mara had been assigned to the ICU floor, her first solo shift, and she was exhausted but determined. She wouldn't allow their doubts to crush her spirit. But as soon as she entered room 7, the situation escalated. A patient, unstable and anxious, required immediate attention. Mara moved quickly, steadying the 4-line, checking vitals, and calling for the necessary medication. Yet the senior doctor on duty, a man with a reputation for arrogance and cruelty, stormed in, glaring at her. He snapped at her, belittling her, mocking her disability in front of the patient. Mara's hands shook, not from fear, but from the anger and humiliation that surged within her. Her training told her to remain calm, but every word from his mouth felt like a blade slicing through her pride. She tried to reason with him, quietly, professionally, but her voice barely registered over his fury. He dismissed her efforts, taking over the patient's care and making her feel invisible. Mara's colleagues looked on, some hesitant, some complicit, but no one spoke up. The hours stretched on, each one a brutal test of her endurance. She had dreamed of becoming a nurse to save lives, to bring comfort, to make a difference, but in this place, that dream felt like it was slipping through her fingers, crushed under the weight of judgment and cruelty. For a moment, she considered giving up, sliding back into the shadows where no one would see her struggle. Her body ached, her heart heavier than her wheelchair, and tears threatened to spill. But then she remembered her promise to herself, made in the quiet of her hospital room months ago, when the accident had left her broken and unsure. She had promised to fight, to prove, not to them, but to herself, that she could rise above the limitations others tried to place upon her. And then, just as despair began to seep in, a distant roar broke through the monotony of the night, the unmistakable sound of engines, powerful and unrelenting. Mara paused, her heart hammering with confusion and curiosity. Outside the hospital's sliding doors, the lights flashed in rapid succession, red, blue, white, and 4 massive Navy SUVs came skidding to a stop. The doors swung open, and a team of uniformed Navy personnel emerged, their presence commanding and undeniable. They moved with purpose, each step deliberate, eyes scanning the lobby until they found her. Iron Widow, one of them called, his voice resonant, carrying across the sterile halls. Mara froze. That name, she hadn't heard it in months, not since her days training with the Special Forces volunteer program during her physiotherapy sessions. It was the nickname they had given her back then, unbreakable, relentless, a fighter in every sense. And here they were, summoning her in the midst of her humiliation, arriving not with judgment, but with unwavering support. The doctors, stunned, could barely process the sight. Their smirks faltered, their arrogance replaced by unease as the Navy team advanced toward Mara. They didn't ask questions. They didn't hesitate. Their arrival was a statement, she was not alone. The team's leader, a tall, broad-shouldered man with piercing eyes, extended a hand to her. Mara took it, trembling, not from fear, but from the overwhelming surge of validation and respect she had been denied for so long. In that moment, she felt something she hadn't felt in months, seen. Truly seen. The team surrounded her, creating a protective circle that even the most aggressive doctor dared not breach. Mara felt her body relax for the first time that night. She had endured mockery, whispers, and subtle sabotage, but the sight of these 4 SUVs, the authoritative presence of the Navy team, ignited a fierce sense of belonging. She was reminded that strength was not only in muscles or mobility, but in courage, determination, and the refusal to be diminished by others. Over the next few hours, the situation began to shift. The doctors, intimidated but unwilling to admit their faults, began to act cautiously. Mara's colleagues, emboldened by the Navy's presence, started stepping up too. They followed her instructions without question, finally recognizing her skill, her precision, and the calm authority that had always been there, masked by their biases. One patient after another benefited from her care that night, and for the first time, Mara's efforts were acknowledged openly. The murmurs of doubt transformed into whispers of admiration. But the real change was internal. Mara realized that no amount of ridicule could erase the fire within her. She remembered the hours she had spent during physiotherapy, pushing herself beyond pain, relearning every movement, every gesture, every skill. She remembered the moments of despair when giving up seemed easier, and the moments of triumph when she accomplished what others had said she couldn't. And now, with the Navy team by her side, she understood that life sometimes comes full circle. When you stay true to your courage, allies arrive in the most unexpected forms, and justice, even if indirect, finds a way. Outside, the SUVs waited silently, engines low, their presence a comforting reassurance. The team didn't leave immediately, they lingered, giving Mara a sense of solidarity she had never experienced before. Their respect was quiet but profound, a stark contrast to the loud, cruel dismissals she had endured from the doctors. And in that quiet, she felt herself finally exhale, releasing months of pent-up frustration, pain, and anxiety. Her body, though still healing, felt lighter, not because it had been restored, but because her spirit had been recognized. As dawn broke over the city, casting golden light through the hospital windows, Mara wheeled herself down the corridor once more. But this time, her steps, her movements, were different. Each click of her crutches against the floor resonated with a newfound confidence. The doctors, who had tried to undermine her, now avoided eye contact, unsure of how to navigate a world where she had emerged unbroken. Her colleagues offered smiles, small nods of respect, and she returned them with quiet dignity. Mara understood, perhaps more clearly than ever, that strength is not always about physical capability, it is about perseverance, resilience, and refusing to allow others to define your worth. That night had been a crucible, testing her resolve, her heart, and her spirit. And she had survived, not because someone else had rescued her, but because she had allowed herself to be seen when the opportunity finally arrived. If you believe in kindness, second chances, and the unyielding power of the human spirit, please like, comment, share, and subscribe to this channel. Let this story remind us all that even in the darkest moments, light can arrive unexpectedly, carried by those who see our true worth. Weeks passed, and Mara continued her work at the hospital with renewed determination. Her relationship with her colleagues began to shift, the initial skepticism replaced by cautious respect. She advocated fiercely for her patients, guided new nurses with empathy, and never again allowed her confidence to be undermined. Each day, she proved, first to herself, and then to the world, that disability was not inability, that compassion was a force stronger than mockery, and that courage was contagious. Her story spread quietly among hospital staff. The legend of Iron Widow grew, not just as a nickname from her Navy friends, but as a symbol of unbroken spirit. Young nurses who struggled found solace in her example, patients who feared judgment discovered reassurance in her unwavering dedication. And Mara, who once doubted whether she could ever fully belong in her chosen profession, became a beacon of hope, demonstrating that heroism exists not only on battlefields or in courtrooms but in the quiet, steadfast devotion of those who care for others, day after day. One evening, Mara wheeled herself to the hospital roof, gazing at the horizon painted in fiery oranges and soft purples. Memories of that night when the Navy arrived flooded back, the surge of relief, the recognition, the strength she had felt. And in that moment, she whispered a quiet vow to herself: no matter what the future held, she would continue to rise, continue to fight, and continue to inspire. Her body might bear scars, but her spirit was unassailable. If this story touched your heart, please engage with the video, like, share, and comment your thoughts. Let Mara's journey remind us all that courage is not measured by ease, but by how we rise after being knocked down. And before you leave, I'd love for you to leave a comment below about a time someone believed in you when you needed it most. Mara's journey from doubt and humiliation to respect and triumph is a testament to the extraordinary resilience of the human spirit. The doctors who once mocked her were rendered irrelevant by her determination. The Navy SUVs that roared into the hospital were more than just a rescue, they were a symbol that sometimes, the world aligns itself with those who refuse to give up. In every patient she touched, in every nurse she guided, Mara carried forward a legacy of bravery, kindness, and unwavering commitment. Even as the city slept, she moved through the halls with quiet authority. Her crutches clicked steadily against the floor, each sound a heartbeat of victory, each glance a silent assertion: she had survived, she had risen, and nothing, no prejudice, no doubt, no limitation, could ever diminish her light. The story of the disabled rookie nurse who refused to be broken, and the Navy team who recognized her true strength, became a legend whispered through hospital corridors and beyond, inspiring everyone who heard it to believe in the unshakable power of courage, compassion, and second chances. And Mara, the Iron Widow, knew one truth above all: resilience is not just surviving, it's thriving, even when the odds are stacked against you, even when the world doubts you, and even when the journey feels impossible. She had been tested, humiliated, and challenged, but in the end, she emerged not just whole, but radiant, a living testament that true strength resides in the heart.